Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let Them Play. I'm your host, Tony Fiorino, and it is Sunday, March 6th. Well, some interesting stuff going on this past week that I want to talk about. I have a very interesting story about a fascinating women's high school coach, basketball coach, who might have just ruined life for sports moms everywhere this week. And we've had yet another chapter unfold in the never-ending drama of bats in youth baseball. We'll be discussing these topics and taking your calls at 914-693-5700. But before we get to that stuff, if you did not know, this past Tuesday, March 1st, was National Sportsmanship Day. And while I'm sure there were plenty of parents and coaches who made a mockery of it, I decided that this week I just wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of discussing all the horrible things that they did, as I usually do on this show. Instead, I want to discuss with you the state of sportsmanship here in America. I am very curious to hear from you about just how far you think we've come as a society since the days when we were kids. I'll be taking your calls at 914-693-5700, so let me know what you think about the state of sportsmanship in our kids today, and more importantly, some of the things that have happened along the way to make things either better or worse over the years. And while we're on the topic, the timing really could not have been much better. Just one day after National Sportsmanship Day, I learned that a book was released by Cal Ripken Jr. called Hothead. It really is a terrific book. It chronicles the journey of a young man named Connor Sullivan. Connor is a typical stud youth athlete who is, well, unfortunately forced to deal with some personal issues that turn him into, well, let's just say a hothead. That's why the book is called what it is. Now, I'm certainly not going to give away the whole book, but I will tell you it's a book that every young athlete is going to love to read because it is very relatable. The book was co-authored by a gentleman by the name of Kevin Cowherd. No relation to Colin Cowherd, as he tells me all the time. But Kevin is a pretty impressive guy in his own right. He is an award-winning sports columnist for the Baltimore Sun. And he's also written a whole slew of great pieces for magazines, including Men's Health, Parenting, and Baseball Digest. Now, aside from being a well-respected author, he's also coached baseball, basketball, and soccer at the youth level for many years with his own 3 kids. Now, I asked Kevin Cowherd to join me today because of his unique perspective as an author, as a sports dad, and as a coach. Kevin is going to, share the mic with me this morning and give us some insights to your phone calls and your email. So, again, the studio lines are open at 914-693-5700. And the email, even though we've solved the email issues this morning, it's heycoachtony@gmail.com. But before we get to your questions, I want to welcome Kevin Cowherd to the show. Hey, Kevin, good morning. Thanks for joining us on Let Them Play. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, Tony. How are you?
I am great. And just one more time, I just want to tell you how I know the book is really geared towards kids, and I'm a big kid at heart. I really did enjoy the book, and I cannot stress enough. The book, again, is called Hothead, and you got to get a copy of it and give it to all your young athletes to read. It's a great, great story. Now, I'm going to be a little bit greedy here this morning, Kevin, because I know we've already got some calls coming in and some emails that have come in, but I have a few questions for you myself before we let these listeners have a crack at you. Is that okay?
Absolutely, Tony.
Great. Now, first, I got to ask you this, because Cal Ripken, I truly believe, is one of the most amazing sports role models in the modern day era. Mm-hmm. So I got to ask you, how did you meet him, and how did you get to working with him on this terrific book?
Well, Tony, it goes back about a year and a half. I was approached by Disney, and they asked if I was interested in writing a proposal. They wanted to start a series of sports novels for young kids, and they were trying to get Cal Ripken on board. So I said, well, listen, any chance I have to work with Cal would be great. And so I submitted a couple of proposals. Cal liked them. He signed on to Disney with the series. And we collaborated on our first book, which, as you noted, is called Hothead. We have a second book coming out Next year, we have a 3-book contract with Disney, so we'll have 3 books all told, Tony. But the second one comes out next year, and that's called Super-Sized Slugger, and that's about a kid who gets bullied. So the first book is about a kid, as you pointed out, who has temper problems, and we're excited about these books because we think they kind of reflect some of the things going on in society, as you talk about on your show. So we just think it's a great chance for kids to read up on some of these issues, and I think it's going to help their parents too. Well,
I couldn't agree more. Again, the book is just so. It's so contemporary, but so timeless in its message. I can't say enough good things about it. So I don't mean to embarrass you, Kevin, but I'm going to keep plugging the book all show long. It's called Hothead. It's written by Kevin Cowherd along with Cal Ripken Jr. It is great. Now, one thing that I have, since I did a little bit of research this week, I gotta ask you this one too. I have heard rumor, and I don't know how else to say it. I've heard rumor that the main character in this book, this kid Connor Sullivan, is loosely based on Cal Ripken Jr. himself and the way that he behaved when he was a kid. Can this be true? Connor Sullivan's a kid who went through some rough episodes of losing his temper, throwing his helmet, throwing his glove, kicking bats around, even threw a bat that hit another kid, and I'm not going to give away too much of the book. But is there any truth to this rumor that this character is based on Cal Ripken Jr.?
Well, it's absolutely true. And Tony, I was...
Hang on, you're going to ruin everybody's Sunday, but go ahead and continue.
Look, I was as shocked as anybody to hear this, but one of my first meetings with Cal when we were talking about the book, he said, I was the same way this kid was, only worse. And he said that when he was about 12 years old, 13, 14, he had tremendous temper problems. He'd strike out, he'd throw his batting helmet, he'd make an error in the field, he'd toss his glove out to right field. He wanted to fight every kid on the other team. He would jaw with umpires and curse at them. I mean, it was unbelievable to hear Cal talking about this because, as you know, during his Hall of Fame career, he was just an exemplary role model. I mean, just the perfect teammate. But he said, yeah, he had these tremendous issues, and it wasn't until, he was well into his teenage years that a coach took him aside and said, listen, you can't be doing this. This is just going to hold you back from what you eventually want to do, and what you eventually want to do is play in the major leagues. So, yeah, it's very much based on the things that Cal went through at this age, Tony.
All right, so are you going to pee in my cornflakes and say the next book is about Cal Ripken bullying like little girls?
Nothing like it. From everything I know, Cal was never a bully, but not to give away too much of the next book either, Tony, it is also, it is loosely based on a couple of incidents that also happened to Cal. So, what Cal brings to these books, Tony, is the authentic baseball experience and also the life experience. Cal's the head of Ripken Baseball that runs baseball camps for kids all over the country. So, if you need any kind of authentic baseball experience, if I needed to know anything about that, I always went to Cal. So, obviously, so far it's been a real nice collaboration between the two of us.
Well, if the first book is any indication of what the series is going to be like, listen, I've read the Matt Christopher books with my kids. This thing leaves those books in the dust. Listen, I know you're not going to sit there and start, trash talking with Matt Christopher, but listen, the book is awesome. I really do love it. Folks, we're going to start taking your calls when we come back from break. The number is 914-693-5700. But before we go to break, listen, there's still plenty of great skiing left this winter. And great skiing means Catamount Family Ski Area up in Hillsdale, New York. Now, as I've said, week in, week out, my family spends a ton of time there skiing. We were there a whole bunch this past winter, and we're told that according to forecasts, this could be the best March in a long time for skiing. And get this, if you buy your season pass for next season, you can ski the entire month of March for free. The rates for next year's season passes are terrific. So just go to www.catamountski.com for more information. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.